Hello everyone, and welcome to the Blyvale podcast, Global Connections with eSIM and SIM cards. Today, we'll guide you through eSIM for Europe, the definitive guide to seamless connectivity abroad. Stay tuned to discover how to stay connected and worry-free while traveling.
Maybe even a rough itinerary. But then that thought comes to your mind. How am I going to stay in touch over there? As if you were really connected, without stressing about costs or finding Wi-Fi everywhere. Well, today we're taking a deep dive into exactly that. We're looking at mobile connectivity for travel in Europe and in particular this technology that's really changing the game, the eSIM. We've looked at some recent insights to understand not only what it is, but why it makes the journey so much smoother. It's so important, isn't it? I mean, we rely on our phones for everything, to share moments, to orient ourselves with maps, to get information on the fly. Connectivity is simply essential. And what's interesting about the research is that, even with EU roaming rules, if you're coming from countries outside the EU, traditional roaming often has, well, significant limitations or hidden costs, especially for data. The EU roaming rules, which allow if you live in Europe and have a SIM card from a country in Europe, have serious data connection limits. If you exceed them, you pay high connection and roaming rates. That's where eSIM comes in. Exactly. In a way, it gets around these problems. Okay. Let's analyze this then. eSIM, integrated SIM. Most people have probably heard the term, but what does it actually mean for a traveler? How is it different from pulling out that little plastic card? Well, basically, it's a digital SIM profile that's already built into your phone or device. So there's no physical card to trade everything, like activating and managing your plan. Everything happens digitally, usually through your phone settings or an app. So you no longer have to fiddle with tiny trays and paper clips at the airport. The sources really underline this convenience. It eliminates the whole step of searching for local SIM card provider the moment you land. It's all about connecting instantly or whenever you choose to activate it. Okay. Instant activation is a big plus. What other benefits have our sources highlighted for travelers? Why is this becoming a must-have? There are several fundamental things. First, the immediate activation we talked about. You can often buy and set up your plan before you even leave home. Then there is flexibility. This is a big problem. You can keep your usual phone number active for calls and texts from home. This way you won't miss important calls. And at the same time, add a separate eSIM plan only for affordable local data in Europe. Plus, there's no small physical card to lose or damage. And the management of everything happens directly on your phone. Simple. So, for our listeners who are planning a trip to multiple countries across Europe, why is Europe such a perfect place to let eSIM shine? Europe, with all its different countries and cultures so closely connected, really requires a reliable and seamless connection while on the move. And as we've mentioned, while EU citizens enjoy certain roaming rights, travelers from other countries often reach such data limits or lower speeds or surprise costs with traditional roaming. And the eSIM often allows you to connect directly to premium local networks in each country, bypassing some of the limitations you may encounter with your origin provider's roaming contracts. It is a constant quality. This seems fundamental. So imagine this. You're using Google Maps, for example, in New York. Then immediately share photos from the Alps, perhaps by video calling the family from Paris. And the eSIM with good data makes all of that, well, frictionless, doesn't it? It's also practical. Consult museum timetables, find a pharmacy, check train schedules on the go, even work remotely if necessary with a stable and fast connection. Yes, the aspect of remote work is increasingly relevant. The main point of our sources is that it removes the underlying anxiety about connectivity. You're not constantly looking for Wi-Fi or worrying about running out of bills. In our research, we saw a few different eSIM providers mentioned. One name that seemed to pop up in particular when it came to unlimited data and wide European coverage was Blyvale. What did the sources say? Were there any specific strengths? What distinguishes such a supplier? Well, several things have been highlighted. One of the main ones for providers like Blyvale is offering truly unlimited data. And the emphasis was on really, which means not slowing down your speed after using a certain amount. This is important. Very important. This solves a major concern for travelers who burn out or are slowed down. Another point was capillary coverage. Widespread coverage. What does it mean exactly? Basically, it means a really extended network range, a guaranteed connection in all the countries of Europe plus other key European nations. In this way, you are also covered in less urban areas. They also mention instant activation, usually via a simple QR code scan, which allows you to set it up in minutes. Okay. And things like 24/7 multilingual support. This is huge for peace of mind when you're abroad. And good value, competitive prices for what you get. So, for someone who does that classic European tour in multiple countries, a plan like Blyvale Unlimited Europe seems tailor-made for it, right? What are its typical characteristics? Plans of this type are designed precisely to move from one country to another. Our sources indicate that they typically offer unlimited data using fast 4G or 5G networks, where available throughout the European zone. You usually get flexible term options, maybe 7, 15, or 30 days. Activation is immediate when you start using it. And often a hotspot feature is included so you can share the connection. And the promise is generally free roaming within this large European footprint. No hidden extra fees when crossing borders within their covered area. It's a much simpler model. And do they also have options if you're only visiting one country, like just Italy or just France? Yes, absolutely. Our sources mention that providers like Blyvale often also have eSIMs for country-specific, e.g. for Italy, Spain, France, Greece, etc. These can sometimes be even more convenient if you know you're staying put in one place. So flexibility depending on your itinerary. What is the process like? It's designed to be really simple. Based on what we've looked at, it generally works like this. Step 1. Visit the provider's website. Let's use Blyvale as an example again. Choose the plan you need, either at European level or country-specific. Step 2. Complete the online purchase. Step 3. You receive an email almost instantly with a QR code. Point 4. You go to your smartphone settings, usually cellular or mobile data entry, and there's an option like adding eSIM or adding a cellular plan. Scan the QR code using your phone's camera. Point 5. Just follow a couple of simple on-screen instructions to label the eSIM, maybe choose its role, for example for data only. Point 6. You're connected. The point is to activate it when you need it and you have 50 days to do it. So you could set everything up before you leave, but you don't actually turn it on or set it as your primary data line until you arrive in Europe to start the clock of your plan's duration. Activated on arrival or one day before, remember that an internet connection is required to activate the chosen plan with the QR code. What about phone compatibility? Need the absolute latest model? This is a common question. Fortunately, no, not necessarily the last. Most smartphones from recent years support eSIM. Our sources generally point to the iPhone XR, XS, and anything newer. For Samsung, this is usually the Galaxy S20 series and later, as well as the Note 20 series and later, Google Pixels generally from the Pixel 3 onwards, and the Huawei P40 and Mate 40 series and later. So a pretty wide range of recent phones. Yes, but it's always best to double-check. Most vendors, including the Blyvale example, have a compatibility checker tool directly on their website. Definitely worth doing before buying. And if you can't find your smartphone, just contact them, inform them of the brand, your smartphone, and the model, and Blyvale will get back to you, informing you that your smartphone is compatible with eSIMs. Good advice. Check first. And once you have it up and running, any other advice from sources on how to optimize use, making sure everything goes smoothly? Yes, some practical things emerged. We mentioned activation on arrival to get the full duration. Download offline maps for your key areas as a backup. You never know when you might momentarily hit a spot with a weaker signal. Always a good travel tip, regardless of the type of connection. Also, maybe check the app settings for background data usage. Some apps can be quite data hungry in the background, so you may want to limit the ones you don't actively need roaming data for. And finally, keep the email with the QR code safe or take a screenshot. If you accidentally delete the eSIM profile or need to reinstall it on the same phone, you'll need that code again. Okay, great practical advice. So actually, when you sum it up, the purpose of a vacation is to relax, explore, immerse yourself in things, without constantly worrying about your phone bill or the possibility of looking for something. And the information we've gathered suggests that with a robust eSIM solution, such as those that offer truly unlimited data across Europe, you can really put connectivity worries aside and focus only on the experience. That reliable, fast connection becomes something of an invisible, right there when you need it. It removes a layer of friction that we perhaps didn't even realize we were dealing with until there was a better way. And thinking about that, it raises a broader question, doesn't it? When connectivity becomes so easy, flexible, global, how does this start to fundamentally change the way we think about international travel, how we plan it, how we experience it? Could technologies like the eSIM break down other barriers for travelers, perhaps allowing, I don't know, even more spontaneous travel or making things like digital nomad lifestyles even more accessible in the long term? It makes you wonder, What's next?
We've reached the end of our podcast episode on eSIM for Europe, the definitive guide to seamless connectivity abroad. I hope you found it helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and visit bliveil.com for more tips and solutions. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.